Before we start the video, I actually wanted to show you guys actual proof that I have these 1,000 euros put away in my savings. There is the 1,000 euros of savings. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me yet, hi, my name is Sofia and I post videos on this channel every Wednesday and Sunday on minimalism and intentional living, and apparently sometimes finances. Part of minimalism for me is just reducing anxiety when it comes to objects, but also when it comes to life, and I feel like being prepared is one of those things that just brings you peace of mind and just allows you to live your life in a more relaxed way, because you know if you ever have an emergency or if someone you love ever has an emergency, then you're able to help out. So today I wanted to share with you guys a quick little video on how I was able to save 1,000 euros. So I guess it's more or less the same as $1,000, but you know, it's not the value that matters. It's just that this was the target goal that I had for me in 1 month, and I wanted to give you guys some tips and tricks. This amount is going to be different for everyone. You want to take these tips and use them to save $100 or $50 for your emergency fund. No matter what your goal is, these tips are definitely going to come in handy. I had savings before, but never had like a target amount. So I would usually have between like 300 to 500 euros in savings. And anytime that something would come up, like the car would break down or something, I would take the money out and slowly replace it. But I felt like 1,000 euros was something that I really wanted to have as a goal, because I felt like that would bring me a different level of security. I read the book Total Money Makeover. I'm going to leave it here and link down below. And this is one of the tips that they had as like the first thing you should do is build up like an $1,000 emergency cash that you don't touch and that it's not easily accessible for other purchases. They even recommend doing that before you start paying off any credit card debt. And the reason they recommend this is because liquid cash keeps you from going into debt. If you rely on credit cards for emergencies, anytime you have an emergency, you're going to put yourself into debt. The worst thing that could happen is you clear your debt from an emergency credit card and all of a sudden you have to use it again and you're back in debt and it feels like you didn't make any progress. I also decided to do this right now because I just finished clearing off some credit card debt. When I was in university, I had the opportunity to take out one of those like student credit cards, and I just thought it was a good idea to have as an emergency or to book some trips. And I never really just like used it excessively, but having it sometimes made me make some bad decisions. So I decided to just cut the card and like get rid of it. Even for emergencies, I no longer have it. Okay, so without further ado, let's just get right into it. The first thing I did to save 1,000 euros was that I turned off all of my subscriptions except for ones I use every day. I went through literally all of the subscriptions that I had active: Netflix, Sweat Apps, Amazon, Audibles, anything that I could find. And I literally turned off all of them except for the essential ones. Some of the ones that I classify as ones that I use every day are, for example, Netflix, because I don't have cable TV. So those 14 euros or 11 euros, I think it is, a month are literally my only source of TV entertainment. I think my parents are on my account too, so I didn't want to do that to them. But anything else, I completely turned it off. And it might not seem like a lot, but I think to me that was maybe like 30 or 40 euros extra that I had at the end of the month. So that's the first step that I took. Step number 2 is that I significantly reduced the amount of takeout and the amount of activities that I was leaving the house to do. This was like very extreme on my part, but like if you go extreme for 1 month, then the benefits that you reap from it will last you for as long as that emergency savings last you, essentially. I have a bad habit of ordering sushi now and then, and it adds up. With everything going on in the world, it's pretty hard to do anything out of the house, but I really just like put a full stop to anything that was spending my money in a non-necessary way. What I do is I have a bank account with my boyfriend, and as part of this joint bank account, we have a joint savings. The third thing I did, and this is where you're gonna see some like real money come in, is I sold any high ticket items that I could do without. Some of these were hard decisions, but I figured in the end, if I sold them for a good enough price and I ever regretted any of them, then I could always buy them again. I know it's not like the best option, but I figured like this is what I needed to tell myself in order to make sure that I was making those sales. And one of the first things that I sold was actually a treadmill that I bought. I bought it because I just figured that like the weather was one of the reasons that was keeping me from running, but then I ended up not using it as much as I thought I would. I sold it actually for the exact same price that I bought it, and that was 300 euros. I also sold my drone. Reason being, originally we bought the drone because we wanted to start traveling a lot. We wanted to go to Bali and Australia, and this was before everything that happened in 2020, so this was like pre-quarantine and everything like that. We weren't getting as much use of it as we wanted to, obviously, because we can't travel that much right now. So I actually sold the drone for, I think it was like 350 euros. So yeah, 600 of those euros came from those two sales. And I know that that like comes from me already having that amount. But for example, if you're trying to save 100 euros and you have like a handful of books that you can sell for 10 euros, that's already 1/10 of your savings right there. So don't underestimate the power of making some sales of things you already have in order to get some cash to put into your savings. Another thing I did to help me save that money was I actually allocated a portion of the amount I wanted to save as an expense for that month. I just always know where my money is and where it's going, and so one of the things I did that month was I put a solid 100 euros as an expense for that month, the same way I would have put gas or food or whatever. So I had to pay that money to myself as part of my budget that month, and it was just non-negotiable for me. So if you're able to allocate a portion of your income for that month as an expense, that's going to make sure that at the end of the month you actually put that money aside and it's not just sitting there waiting to be used on takeout or something else. Another thing I did, and this is very particular to me, but if anything, it might serve as an incentive to get you looking into investments, was that I sold some of my stocks. When the market crashed in March of 2020, I invested in a couple of stocks, Starbucks and Slack being some of them. And by the time that I was trying to put my cash into emergency savings, I actually went to look at my portfolio and saw some that had already like gotten me the profit that I wanted, and I sold them and I took the cash out and I put it into my savings. Something else I did was I took on more work. If you don't already have a side hustle, I highly recommend looking into one if that's something that you're able to do. When I was a student, for me, that side hustle was delivering food. I just got on my bike and I delivered a bunch of food. But for me particularly was that I asked the clients, I'm a freelancer for those of you who don't know, and I asked my clients if they had any more work for me during that month, and they actually did. It actually coincided with like, I did this in November, by the way, so it actually coincided with like Black Friday and everything, and I work in marketing, so I was able to pick up a lot more hours and make up a lot more money that month. So that's something else I did. If you're able to find a way to get some extra cash that month, whether that be babysitting, whether that be delivering food, working some extra shifts at your work, try to do that just for a month, just so you can build up your emergency savings. Last but not least, and I think maybe the most important one, was that I was very clear about my why. Before I even started looking into how I could save some extra money or thinking about it, I sat with myself and I asked myself, like, why do I want this money in emergency savings? Why is this important to me? And I wrote down a couple of reasons, and I remember some of them were like, so I don't have to depend on anyone if there's an emergency. So if my dog gets sick and needs the vet and has high vet bills, that I can afford it. If my boyfriend ever needs my help, so that I can help him. If I ever get fined or something like that for some reason, you never know. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to not only help myself, but help those in my care, so my dog, and those I love, like my boyfriend and my family. And for me, that reason and those reasons are what really kept me going. So I highly recommend that you sit down with yourself and you really ask yourself, like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to save this money? But yeah. If this video is helpful, please do not forget to subscribe and leave me a big thumbs up. I really, really appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate all of you in this little YouTube family that we're creating. If you have any comments or you just want to interact with me in general, leave a comment down below. I reply to every single one of my comments. It's just something that I feel very strongly about. I hope to see you guys in Sunday's video. Bye.